Now, there were a number of things to be done. First, as I said last time, that first the letters were to be distinguished from one another, and the signs were to be introduced for vowels and for other things. This took time, as we said, and number of people contributed to that. After it became book and then circulated in the community, not only in Makkah and Medina, but of course anywhere there were Muslims, the copies of the Quran went. Then it was a book. Now the people tried to make it easy for recitation, so they made certain division in it. Remember that originally Quran was divided into surah. We translate surah as chapter. Into chapters, there were 114 chapters in the Quran of various length. Some are only 1.5 lines, and some are spread over more than 40 pages. So they were of various length. They were surah chapters 114. Then some people thought that, well, it should be given other kind of division. So first they divided it into 7. Because the Prophet ﷺ advised one of his followers who was engaging all his time in reciting Quran, trying to finish every day the whole Quran once. He said, no, you can't do it. And then he allowed him to finish it in 7 days and gave him very clear instruction that no less than 7 days. So some people took that advice and then divided Quran into 7 parts. You find the Quran printed in the subcontinent, it has 7 divisions called manzil, 7 manzils. And when the new manzil starts, they indicate it by putting some design on the page. But Arab Quran printed in the Arab countries doesn't have this division. They don't believe in manzil also. But anyhow, it is there. So this was the first division after surah, and this was not done by the Prophet. Remember, the division into surah was divine. It was done by the Prophet ﷺ himself. Now this second division, which was into 7 portions, 7 parts, this was done by companions, we can say. That they were the one who divided it into 7 parts. Then after that, some people thought that even these 7 parts are not enough and easy for people to read one part in one day, and so they divided Quran into 30 parts called the juz, 30 parts, with the intention of that if a person reads one juz, one part a day, he will be able to finish the Quran in 1 month, in 30 days. For this reason, they divided into 30 parts. Then after that, some people thought that it should be made easier. So they divided into 60 sections and 60 parts. The first one was called in Arabic juz, and it says para in Urdu, part in English you can translate. And this was hizb, the 60 portions to which Quran was divided. They were known as hizb. Again, the meaning could be portion. So anyhow, this is not very common in the subcontinent. It is only in Arab countries. So they divided into hizb, 60 hizb, meaning that each juz, each part will have 2 hizb. So it will become 60. Then again some people divided further. Every juz was divided into 4 parts, quarter, 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 quarter. And the people of Hizb divided it into 8 parts. I don't know why they divided into 8. I mean, this was really proper for the people of Juz because it was bigger. But they divided only into 4, but the Hizb people divided into 8. So this was another division which continues even today. And then it is to be noted that there is some difference between the beginning of a juz, among, I don't know where it comes, but mainly the Quran printed, Mus'haf printed in the Arab countries, sometimes it differs from what is printed in the subcontinent. Certain part start either one verse earlier or some verses later. So this difference doesn't make any problem, because it is not what the Prophet ﷺ did. This division was not done by him. This division was done by later people, and the intention was just to make it easy to recite. Right? So that is how it was. Then after that, even some people decided to divide the surah into what they call it ruku'. Ruku' means this posture which we do in the prayer, regular prayer. When we finish our standing posture, we bow down, just bend, and that is what is called ruku'. Maybe the intention was that that portion which is given in one ruku' should be recited before a person moves from a standing position to the ruku' position. But anyhow, again, this seems to be very later than this formation of juz and hizb. And that is also available only in the Quran printed in the subcontinent. Quran printed in Arab countries don't have these ruku'. They don't have it. Right? So this was another development in the text of the book, or in the book itself, you can say. And then there was no signs, no punctuation marks in the Quran. Some people thought that it is necessary, because sometimes stopping on a particular word is necessary, otherwise the meaning will be confused and it may give a wrong meaning. So they introduced a certain signs, small letters, to indicate that here stopping is a must. They call it waqf lazim. That stop is an obligation here in this part. So they put a small meme indicating an abbreviation of the word of lazim. So they put it there. And then a very small tiny letter of la, no, that is put in a place where stopping is not very good. It is not required, and it can spoil the meaning. So they put this small la there, a small law there. Apart from these two, no and must, there were minor signs to tell people that they can stop here if they like, if they can want to continue, if they want to continue, they can continue. So these signs are found in the Quran today. And you will notice that the Quran printed in the subcontinent, they have more signs than the ones printed in Arab countries. So this is how it was. Punctuation mark they are. And sometimes we feel that there are places which are missing the punctuation, where we should have a sign that a person can stop here. But anyhow, it is not. What they decided now at the moment, the scholars or the readers of the Quran, they do not want to add anything. And also it is to be noted that this sign of la, meaning that you should not stop here, even it comes at the end of some ayah. And by the way, end of ayah is also marked by a circle. It is also, earlier it was the letter ta, ayah. So the last letter was taken from this word ayah, means verse, and then it changed to a circle. So these circles indicate the end of ayah. And of course you count those circles and you can say how many ayah, how many verses are in this particular surah. Fine? So these are the signs which we find today in the Quran. Now the surah, the names given to surah are not given by the Prophet himself. We don't have any evidence to suggest that he named all the surahs. Yes, definitely he named some of them. And it is mentioned in the books of hadith. We find, for example, chapter 2 was named Baqarah by him. He mentioned it by the name Baqarah. And so on. So there are certain surah where we have the evidence that the Prophet called them with those names. But the rest, we are not sure who gave them these names. It was the committee of Usman, or some people later, the reciters of the Quran, the one who were concerned with the recitation and study of the Quran, they gave them, we don't know. Now, we notice also that the names do not really relate to the content. One should not be misguided to think that since it is a surah of jinn, then the matters related to jinn will be mentioned there. As a matter of fact, the Suratul Jinn really includes the information about jinn, but not other surah. Say for example, if you have a surah like second surah Baqarah, it doesn't speak about cow in general, but there is a story concerning Banu Israel that one man was killed and they went to Musa asking him help to know who has killed him. So Musa alayhi salam told them to bring a cow and kill it and touch the flesh with the body of the dead person. He will come back to life and then tell them. Now they started putting questions and made things difficult for themselves. So since it was a unique and strange case of cow, the surah was given that name. But again, it is mainly concerned with the personal law of marriage, divorce, and it speaks, of course, about fasting and many other things. So it is not necessary that the name given to the surah should be exactly in according to the content of surah itself. There are a few exemptions to this. Say for example, surah number 12 called Yusuf, Joseph. It includes the whole story of Joseph from the time he mentioned his dream to his father, and then the brothers felt jealous, took him and dropped him in a well until the family reunites in Egypt. The whole story in one place is mentioned in that chapter 12. No other prophet's story is mentioned in one place like this. So that is one exception. And another exception is surah number 71, Noah. There is a small surah, but the whole surah contains information about Noah. And as I said, jinn. It speaks about jinn. But not all of the surah go with this pattern. There is one thing we note also, that some of the surah are given the name by a word which occurred only once in the Quran and in that surah, in that chapter. So the chapter was known by that. Like say surah number 5 called a Maida, table, dining table. That appears only in that chapter concerning the request of disciples from Jesus, that why don't you ask your Lord to send us a table, not empty table, of course. They must have in their mind that it should be, should have all kind of meals. And then it was done, as Quran tells us. So the word Maida, table, appears only in that surah. And then again say Nahl, meaning bee, surah number 16. The word Nahl, in the meaning of bee, appears only in that chapter. So it was known as Nahl. It is a lengthy surah, but Nahl is mentioned only in 2-3 verses only. And since it was unique and only place where this word occurred, it was given that name. The same can be said about Naml, ant. You know, in the story of Solomon, Sulaiman, that when he came out, the chief of ants told its herd that get out and hide in your holes, otherwise Suleiman's army is coming and they will crush you to death and they will not notice. So Suleiman, since Allah gifted him with the knowledge of the language of animals, he heard it and he smiled. So Naml is mentioned only in that surah, that is surah number 29. And then spider, surah number, Naml is 27. And spider is 29. The surah number 29 is Ankabut. The word Ankabut, spider, appears only in that surah. There are many other surah you find that the word appeared there and it was known by that name. You know, it may be an ordinary name, Arabic word meaning just a simple sense. But since it was mentioned only in that chapter, the chapter was known by it. Say for example, Shura, consultation. So that appeared only once in the Quran, and this was in chapter 42. The surah was known as Shura, consultation. Again, another example is Jasiyah, kneeling down. When Allah mentioned that on the day of judgment, all the communities will be kneeling in humbleness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the word Jasiyah, was taken as name for that surah. Teen, fig, because it appeared only there. And there are many other examples, many other surah chapters which are given the name by the word which appeared there only once. Sometimes a surah is known by the first word with which it starts. The beginning of the word is given as its title, its a name. Say for example, Taha, surah number 20, Yasin, surah number 36, Safat, surah number 37, Qaf, 50, and many others. Ar-Rahman, 55, and Abasa. Abasa is a verb, Abasa wa tawalla, that he frowned and he turned from someone who came to visit him. That refers to the story where a blind man came to the Prophet ﷺ to ask about something, and he was busy with some big bosses of Quraysh. And he was very much interested in these people that if they become Muslim, it will have great impact on the society and many others will follow them. So in that situation, this blind man enters and then he starts speaking. The Prophet did not like it. He should have come another time, he thought. But so the abasa, the verb, is taken as the name of the surah. And then also like tabbat, another verb. It has been given because the surah starts with this. So there was no very fixed rules and regulation or criteria to name the surah. They were just given the name, and these names are, as I said, only symbol to indicate that surah, to just say that this is the surah where when you quote, then you can say that this ayah is in surah Tabbat or surah Abbas or surah Kaza. Now in the modern time, the scholars use number, because the surah, of course, as they are inserted in the Quran, put in the Quran, they have number from 1 to 114. So people find it easy to just put the number and then of the surah and number of the verse. By the way, some surah have more than one name. So for example, surah number 40, it has two names, Ghafir and Mu'min. And then surah Al-Fatiha, the very first surah, has a number of names. So names can differ, and then also sometimes you find that in Quran of the subcontinent has one name and the Quran of Arab countries has another name. Very few differences are there. So this is as far as surah are concerned. And after that, the Quran is written. The people try to decorate it, the book, decorate it as much as they can. So when they were prosperous, when a prosperous person wants to produce a Quran and gets it written for him, he would like to put some gold and silver cover on it. And then this was done, in the past. And there are many Quran in the museums where you can see these patterns. They tried to decorate at least the outside of the cover of the Quran should be decorated with gold and other materials. also sometimes they put the first surah, Al-Fatiha, with golden thing something. It is reported that Sheikh Zayed, late Sheikh Zayed of Abu Dhabi, he wanted to produce the whole Quran written with gold. I don't know how far the story is true and whether the project was completed. But anyhow, this, attempt by Muslims to beautify the Quran, to make it appear beautiful, continues even today. You have number of this the number of such Quran in Topkapi Sarai in Istanbul and also in Cairo and many other museums. You have the biggest Quran, very big one, very heavy one, very wide one, and then the smallest Quran. A Quran which is written in a very tiny shape. You can't read it without magnifying glasses. A man wrote the surah number 112, Qul Huwallahu Ahad, which is 2 lines almost, on a grain of wheat. So this kind of attempt by Muslim always is there. And then another thing, that they try to beautify the script as much as they can. Sometimes they made image of a camel, and that if you look very closely, you find that this is some verses from the Quran. And in this way, they try to, as they thought, they are helping, or they are serving the Quran. They thought that they are serving the Quran. So this is how it was. Quran was, of course, handwritten. There was no press in the beginning. When press came, the first Quran was printed by non-Muslims in Venice, which was not accepted really by Muslims. And there were 2 more editions, 2 more prints after that, again by non-Muslims, which was not appreciated and it was not accepted. Then the first Quran printed by Muslims, it was in Russia, and then in Iran, and then in Istanbul. Istanbul came very late because these people were very reluctant to accept any modern invention. But then the Quran, which was printed in Egypt in 1923, that was made the basis of all the Quran which we have today. They are based on that Egyptian Mus'haf, Egyptian Quran. And the number of verses and all these signs are mentioned there. Another thing I must mention here, that the original Quran in the beginning, did not have any information about surah or anything inserted inside the text. It was pure Quran, only Quran, the words of Quran. Only Bismillah was written because it was a part, considered to be part of surah. But what is the name of surah? How many verses are there? And whether this surah was revealed in Makkah and Medina, these informations were not given. The people had problem in the beginning, and they had time. They were not very easily convinced that these information should be written in the Quran. But little by little they came to agree that these information are very important. First they were written on the margin, but then they decided to put it inside. But these information, you will find the name of surah is written in a different font, just to make it separate from the Quranic text and to give the people information that this is not part of the Quran. So some of them have more information and some have less. So for example, some Quran will tell you only the name, that this is surah so and so, finish. Some of them will say more, this is surah so and so, which was revealed in Makkah, full stop. Then some will give some more information, that this is a surah which was revealed in Makkah, but certain verses of it, they were revealed in Medina. And then the Quran printed in the subcontinent will tell you also how many ruku are there. And Others, they will tell you how many verses, ayah, are in this surah. So, these informations are given and they are now written in the beginning of each surah. Remember, first, when the problem of division came, they tried to put some color to indicate that here 1/4 has finished or 1/2 is finished. They didn't like to indicate it in words. But now, of course, these information are given on the margin, written. There is ruba, quarter, nisf, and then juz at it starts. Now, to make it easy for the people who memorize the Quran, now there are Quran printed where each page ends at the end of ayah. Fine? I mean, this will make the person to memorize that page, and then he will not be forced to go to the second page to complete the ayah. No, the ayah finishes there. So this is a very popular design now, that each page should end with the ayah at the end, and that will be all right. So now this is how it goes. Now, Turkey printed a Quran in 70s, I think. That was beautiful. What they did, that they first time they used 2 different colors. Earlier, of course, the Quran was just only one color, black. It continues from the beginning to the end. They used a red and black. And they used a red color for the names of Allah. Allah, Rahman and Rabb, for example. So they designed the page in a way that if the word Allah has appeared on the top in the beginning lines somewhere, then the next time it comes must be just below it. It looks beautiful. When it came, appeared, it was hailed. The people felt very happy. Turkish people are known for their expertise in calligraphy. So they produced that Quran. Now, of course, you find many Quran printed in 2-3 colors. But of course, I think it was Turkey first who printed, and it was beautiful. Many other examples are there. What else can we say? Just remember. Ask me then question, and then we will see.
What about in Malaysia? Do they have that sort of?
I don't think really, because they just follow what is done in Egypt or in India, subcontinent. They don't have their own thing. It is in reciting that they excelled, and competed Egyptian people. But in producing Quran, no, they have the same formal way.
And how about when you talk about Shias? Do they have their?
No, they don't have different one, but they agree with this division. And then they use now in Iran, of course, different colors, even to indicate certain things. They can use it, because now there is no objection. People don't mind using different colors. But remember, as we said one time earlier, that the writing, the Arabic script, differs from west to the east. So Quran written in the west, in Western Africa, Morocco, they are different from the one written here in the east. Until very recently, the African people did not accept printed Quran. The tradition of writing by hand continued. And even when they accepted this printed one, they don't like it to be bound, put together and then bind it. No, they don't want it. So they are loose sheets put together between 2 hardcover, and then if 3-4 people come to read, they can distribute pages from there, and that makes it easy. So this is how they do. And their Quran, of course, it has some additional information. They can tell you how many times this particular word has occurred in the Quran. This kind of information they give, which is very useful. So even today, many scholars or reciters of the Quran in Nigeria and other parts, they don't want printed Quran, they want handwritten Quran. And their reading, we will come to this point, their reading is Warsh from Nafi, while this eastern part reads Hafs from Asim. So even in recitation there are differences between two systems. We said earlier that Quran was divided into surah, chapters. That was the first division, which was done by the Prophet ﷺ himself. And in this division, Quran was divided into 114 surah. Quran includes 114 surah of various length. Some are very big, some are very small. And that was how it was done by the Prophet ﷺ. When the committee of Usman completed the compilation of the book, when Quran became a book, it came in a book form, then it was decided that it should be made easy for the people to recite. So first thing which was done, that signs were made for every verse, every ayah. There was a sign made which is now in the shape of circle, which indicates the end of ayah, and it continues. The ayah and verses are of various length. Some are very small, some are long one, going to a few lines. So there is no very good system in deciding where ayah ends. We believe really that these were also fixed by the Prophet ﷺ himself. And you will find that sometimes an ayah ends where sign of la means that don't stop here, but end of ayah one is allowed to stop. So it goes like that. And in early parts of the Quran, the ayahs are very small and they are rhymed. They are beautiful in reciting, in chanting. So this was another thing which was done, that signs were fixed for indicating the verses and ayah. Then the first division of the book was made into 7 manzils, 7 sections. That was intended to give the people a time period for reading the whole Quran, which was fixed again by the Prophet ﷺ. He allowed one of his companions to finish the whole Quran in 7 days, not less than that. So the people decided that they should divide the Quran in 7 parts, and each part should be read by a person who is interested in finishing it in 7 days. That was one thing which was done. But it was also noticed that not everybody has so much time to read one of these 7 sections, because they require more time. So only for the purpose of tilawa, recitation, making it easy for common people to recite, it was divided into 30 parts of equal size. Here it was not taken into consideration anything else but the size. Equal size of 30 parts, each part is equal to the next one, and that was meant with the intention of giving people an opportunity to finish the Quran in 1 month. Every day he recites one juz, one part, and then he finishes in 30 days. So they are equally divided, and there is no consideration of any other thing, as I said. So you will find that there is a story going on, and the middle of the story a part finishes and another part starts, like say part 15 and 16, and also you can see 6 and 7. And not only that, sometimes an injunction is given, a ruling is given, and half of the ruling comes in the first part and then second one comes in the second part, like it is in part 4 and 5. Allah mentions those women with whom marriage is not allowed. Counted many of them and ayah finishes in part 4, and the next part 5 starts with remaining relations, remaining women who are not allowed to be given in marriage to a Muslim. So in this way it is decided, equal size of 30 parts. And then these 30 parts also, each part is divided into half and quarter. 4 sections are given there. Again, for the same purpose, that the people should not find it difficult to recite, but they can recite as much as they like. 1/4, half of the juz, or the whole juz. And then later on, some people found that even one juz, 30 parts are not very easy to be done, to be read every day one part. So they divided Quran into 60, what is called ahzab, hizb. 60 sections. And here they divided each section, each hizb, into 8 parts, not 4, 8 parts. So, I mean, this was just to make reciting easy for the people, that any time they have, they can go to the Quran, take the book, and then read the way they like. This is how it was done. And then after that, another division took place, which was mainly, really, we feel that it was done in the non-Arab areas, mainly subcontinent, which is still there in use, is dividing surah into ruku. Ruku, you know, is that posture which we go inside the prayer. When we perform our obligatory prayer, we stand first and then we bow down, we bend. So this bending thing is called a ruku. Now, I think this name was given maybe, we don't know, maybe for this purpose, that a person should go to ruku inside the prayer after reading that much. So a ruku includes a number of verses. That also is not, size is not considered there. Number of verses are not considered there. So you find a ruku including only 3 verses, and the one after that has 10 or 15 even. So it is not of equal size. It is of different size. And then in order to make it easy for the people who are interested in memorizing Quran, some printed Quran now, they are, making it very easy that every page should end with an ayah. So there is easy for a person to read either one page or to recite or memorize one page. And the book, which is, of course, the Quran, is given very much respect by Muslims. It must be remembered that they are very, very honorable and very respectable, an object of utmost respect. And that explains, you may have heard about Afghan people demonstrating when they saw that some American soldiers have shown disrespect to the copies of the Quran. No, Quran must be respected, and this is a command by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It even is not allowed to be touched without being completely in the condition of purity. Some people put a condition that also the person must be with the ritual ablution wudu, and then he can touch it. So that respect is to be given. And also, the book is not kept under other books. No, it should be always placed on the top of any other material, any other book which is there. As a matter of fact, the whole community became involved. All of them took part in this process because they thought that this was something they must do now. So they collected all the things, and they had this condition for including anything in the book, that it must be written, and there must be 2 people at least who memorize it by their heart. The style of Quran has a very unique feature, as noted by some commentators of the Quran, that Quran is not composed of dead words. It is composed of pictures, moving pictures.